Senator Durbin.
Thanks a lot, Madam Chair. And Doctor, welcome. 10 years ago, I made a visit to the NIH, and I met with a man who I believe is an American hero by the name of Francis Collins. He had the job which you currently have. And I asked him what I could do as a member of the Senate to help NIH. In previous years, the number of bipartisan efforts that resulted in doubling its budget, I didn't think that was realistic. And he said to me, what is realistic, and it's hard to do, is give us 5% real growth every single year. If you can do that, we're going to light up the scoreboard. We are making breakthroughs in so many different areas. 5% real growth. Our researchers will know they can count on next year being another good year for medical research. So I came back here and I talked to Patty Murray, who will join us, I'm sure, before this is over. Asked her to join in this effort. Then I reached across the table to Roy Blunt, who was a predecessor as the chair of this committee, and Lamar Alexander, and a number of others who are here today, and said, let's go for 5%. You know what we did? In 10 years, we went from $30 billion at NIH to $48 billion, an $18 billion increase in medical research at NIH. I couldn't have been prouder of all of our bipartisan efforts to do that. This year, your budget wipes it out completely. Wipes out $18 billion that we fought for over 10 years. And I can't understand that. I disagree with this administration on so many things, but this is the one that really gets to me personally. To think that this nation would walk away from medical research, for God's sake. We lead the world in medical research. Why would we give up on it? I look at the specifics here. Cancer. 2025, 2 million new cases of cancer will be diagnosed in the United States. 600,000 people will die from that disease. Yet your budget requests a 38% cut, 38% to the National Cancer Institute. 7 million people nationwide are living with Alzheimer's. This disease, of course, is devastating to families. It robs them of their loved ones. Yet your budget requests a 39% cut to the National Institute of Aging. When you look at specific schools, of course, I'm concerned about Illinois. We have great research there. Northwestern University has not received a penny for NIH grants in 11 weeks. 1,359 NIH awards to Northwestern have been frozen or terminated, holding $81 million in research to date. I could go through some of the specifics of this research, but it includes $9 million in clinical trials for brain cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, childhood cancer. How are you able to reconcile these budget decisions with the reality of research and what it means to alleviate suffering and, more importantly, to give people hope? If research is underway, you at least have the hope that maybe there'll be a cure, maybe in the lifetime of someone I love. How can you walk away from that?
Well, Senator, my intention not to walk away from that. I think that...
But the budget speaks for itself. You cut $18 billion in research.
Well, Senator, the budget is a collaboration between Congress and the administration. So, I look forward to talking about the advances that NIH researchers have made. I think the transition has been a very bumpy time, and I don't mean to downplay that, but there have been opportunities for reform for how the biomedical research enterprise works. I think the decisions about Northwestern happened before I got into office, but let me just say that
the buck stops in your office.
I know it
now.
does. So let me just say that
don't blame another person.
I'm not blaming anyone.
We're asking you, and you're in charge.
Senator, I agree with that. So let me just say that I think that the way that the universities operated during the pandemic didn't always make it easy for scientists to do their work. I can tell you that personally from being a professor, and I think some of the
But eliminating grants, eliminating research, how can that solve the problem?
So I think that I'm very hopeful that a resolution can be made with the universities where those decisions have been, those grants have been paused. I've worked very hard to make sure, for instance, at Harvard, we didn't pause grants, for instance, to the medical centers because there were clinical trials going on. But I think that I'm very hopeful that these universities where these pauses have happened will come to terms so that we can move forward with the agenda that I think you and I both share. We
Well,
absolutely
let me
need
say this. I am personally disappointed. You know, you try as a senator to pick one or two areas and really make a difference. And I think this committee and the members of this committee on both sides made a difference, dramatic difference, 60% increase in NIH research over the last 10 years. You've wiped it out, just wiped it out. And now we start anew. And forget my disappointment, the disappointment of the people sitting behind you who are counting on this research for hope for tomorrow, that life will be better for them and their families. Madam Chair, I'd ask consent that a statement from the ALS Association be entered in the record after my statement.
Without objection.
Thank you.